So I would share a little of my experience, which I have done in the last 6, 7 years. So my last 7 years, actually, I was associated with the National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, that is situated in New Delhi. So very recently, I got transferred to ITM. This thing. So I will share all those work which I have done at NCMWF. So my topic of today's talk is prediction of cyclones over North Indian Ocean using a high resolution global model. Okay. So how to move forward? Slide is uh, next. It is not going.
Oh, okay, you can do one thing.
Okay. Now. Okay. So now this is the outline of my talk. So as already sir has introduced about me, so I'll skip that part. So then I'll discuss about tropical cyclones over North Indian Ocean region. So this NIO region is basically Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal is known as NIO region. Then I'll just discuss in brief about my recent studies that how we have improved the tropical cyclone prediction in real time. When the cyclone comes, we used to share all the model forecast with India Meteorological Department in real time. So I would like to discuss about those improvements which we have done in the recent years. After that, I will just briefly discuss about the very recent cyclone, extremely severe cyclone storm Fani, which formed over the Bay of Bengal last year into 2019, April to May 2019. So this is like okay. So a very short introduction about my research center. Basically, Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, as you might be knowing, that is a government research center based in Pune. So our headquarters is based in Pune, and right now I'm working with Delhi branch. So it's basically it expands research over tropical NIO region with special reference to monsoon meteorology and air sea interaction of Indian monsoon. So our main focus is that how to improve the monsoon prediction over Indian region. So then we have Pratyush HPC. HPC means like a high performance supercomputer. We have fastest computer of the country right now based in Pune. Okay, so just in brief, I may tell that these are the some characteristic features of tropical cyclones or NIO region. So they are very vast, whirling giants of winds and water. They extend up to 150 to 800 kilometer. They are called hurricanes over the Atlantic and typhoons over the Pacific Ocean. And one basic characteristic which one should know that the cyclones usually come during the pre-monsoon season or post-monsoon monsoon season. They never come during the monsoon season, though there might be a lot of low pressure areas which can form over Bay of Bengal region during monsoon. The reason behind this is that for the formation of cyclones, you should have a very less wind shear, but during the monsoon we have a very strong vertical wind shear, which is not favorable for the formation of cyclones. So that is the reason. So after that means this is in brief that how we used to do how we used to track the cyclone when it comes to in real time. Basically, we have this tracking software or model is based basically UK Met Office TC tracker. So it basically takes total 7 variables: U wind, V wind, surface temperature, 10-meter zonal wind, and 10-meter meridional wind, and then MSLP. So based on some mathematical calculations, it extracts the maximum of relative vorticity and minimum of mean sea level pressure, and based on that, it gives the center of cyclone in the for the future. So before introducing, I'll just tell that what are the standard errors. What is the meaning of errors? So meaning of errors means in my coming slides I'll be talking about the DPE, ATE, and CT. So DPE is like suppose our forecasted cyclone is here. Just okay. Suppose our forecasted cyclone is here and observed was here. So the direct great circle distance between this forecasted cyclone and observed cyclone, observed position of cyclone is known as DPE. Then suppose this was the observed path of cyclone and this was the forecasted one. Then the perpendicular distance between the path of the observed cyclone and this forecasted position is known as the cross track error. Why we used to say this thing cross track? Because this is in the perpendicular direction. Then this is known as a long track error. So these are the terms which I'll be using in my next slide. So I thought to discuss. with all this thing. I'll just briefly tell that my recent studies related to TC forecasting in real time. Real time means, as you all might be knowing, real time is like when cyclone comes, so we have to give the forecast at once. Means we don't have time to do a lot of research. So these improvements, they have been implemented at the NCMRWF. So I'll be discussing about that. So before that, I would like to introduce that which in detail about the modeling system which we are having at NCMRWF. So NCMRWF is having basically NCM global model, which is based on UK Met Office and NCMRWF joint model. It has a resolution of 12 kilometer and it has total 17 levels in vertical, and it's a convection scheme, and all those things are based on Gregory and Roundtree. So this is the general thing, how the model works is basically initially we have a lot of real-time observations which used to go inside the model. So this plot shows the real-time observation of obtained from different sensors. We can see that we have GPS RO observations, then aircraft observations. So this type of observations, and this is the counting of those observations. They used to go as initial condition in real time. So once we get this initial condition, then based on some mathematical evolution of the atmosphere, we used to predict the cyclones over Bay of Bengal region or Arabian Sea. So our initial conditions are very much important, because without initial conditions, that forecasting will be very poor. So very recently, my recent study with my reporting officers, first I had evaluated different versions of NCM global model. So one was having a 17-kilometer resolution, and another was having a 12-kilometer resolution. So this study has been published in Dynamics of Atmospheres and Ocean. So for this study, we had taken two cyclones. One was Hudhud and another was Helen. So Hudhud formed over during this October 2014, and Helen formed during 19 to 23 November. And it just hit the Visakhapatnam, and then it hit the Machilipatnam. So these are some snapshots of that study. So what I want to convey from this plot is this black curve shows the observed path of the cyclone, and this red curve shows the predicted track of cyclone by 17-kilometer model. By 25-kilometer resolution model, and this shows the track predicted by 17-kilometer model. Green shows the track predicted by 17-kilometer model. From this plot, we can see that as we have increased the horizontal resolution of our model, the track prediction has improved. Moreover, now things are quite accurate also. So this is for one initial conditions. Similarly, we can see for other initial conditions also. Like here, we got the very positive and very good result of increasing the horizontal resolution. And this is for case of Hudhud, and this one is for the case of Helen. So Helen. Okay.
Please.
Okay. Really sorry to everyone. Please forgive me for that. Okay. We were okay. I was discussing about this type of improvements. I was telling that this black curve is the observed track of the cyclone, and this green is the 17-kilometer resolution model, and this red one is the 25-kilometer resolution model. So as we can see from this plot that as the resolution is increased, the prediction of the cyclone has also improved. Here we can see that now this green curve is very close to the observed track. So this improvement was reported in Dynamics of Atmosphere and Ocean journal. So we got some initial position error improvement by 21 to 41%. Okay. So similarly, I'll tell about the next improvement which we have done recently in the field of cyclone forecasting. So this study is also published in this Marine Geodesy paper. So in this, we have discussed that how the vortex initialization has improved the prediction of tropical cyclones over the Indian Ocean. So okay. So first of all, I'd like to tell that what is the synthetic bogus vortex. Synthetic bogus vortex is basically a method by which we create the artificial observation over the ocean. So you can understand in a simple way that suppose we don't have the actual initial position observation of the cyclone. Due to this lack of data set, sometimes the prediction of the cyclone is not that good. So what we do that based on our present atmospheric conditions, we create a three-dimensional axis symmetric vortex. This vortex basically works in four steps. First, it takes input from as a U wind, V wind, temperature, geopotential height, relative humidity at all pressure levels. Then it also take as input surface temperature and surface pressure and mean sea level pressure. Then as our initial conditions, as we have gained this initial condition, so then this vortex scheme basically works in four steps. In first step, it removes all the weak spurious vortices which we have got in global model analysis. Then it creates a three-dimensional axis symmetric vortex from the current operational vortex side. And in the third step, it just closes the vertical structure of the cyclone below 500 HPA. And then after this artificial vortex is given into the model for the forecasting. So in short, what we can see that we basically create an artificial initial cyclone in our global model so that we could represent the cyclone very well in the forecasting. So after this vortex creation, we took the 4 cases of cyclone over Bay of Bengal, as we can see from this plot here. So this case was Rohanu. I think if I remember that it came in 2016, then Maruta, Mora, and Nada. So all those things I have chosen over the Bay of Bengal. So okay, so from this panel we can see that this left panel A, C, then E, G. This shows the simulation of all the cyclones without vortex, and the right panel shows the corresponding simulation of cyclone with vortex initialization. So we can see that this cross mark shows the actual center of the cyclone on that particular day. So here we can see that this thing. I'll choose the pointer here. Okay, so here we can see that this cross mark is the actual position of the cyclone, and this circulation shows the vortex as depicted by the model. So this left panel is without the vortex initialization, and this right panel is with the vortex initialization. We can see that after the implementation of the vortex initialization, the overall position of the observed cyclone is matching with the model analysis. And also we can see that in general the cyclones are relatively strongly captured in the with vortex conditions. So we can say that certainly we have got very positive results for these 4 cases in real time. So this work took me like 1 to 2 years for implementation at NCMRW of Noida. So now this work is operational there in Noida. So this basically shows the vertical cross section of vorticity. Vorticity tells basically the rotating behavior of the cyclone. So again here the left panel is without vortex cases and the right panel is with vortex cases. So we can see that when we have implemented the with vortex cases in real time, the structure vertical structure of vorticity has also improved. So these were some positive impacts of implementing vortex. Okay, so I'll just so in the track, again we can see that here likewise the track of cyclones has improved. So I'll skip this portion also. So in short, we can say that after implementing the vortex, we were able to improve the track of cyclones over Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. Then the third study of mine was published in the remote sensing in Earth System Sciences. So in this study, we tried to find whether the vortex data is in good correlation with satellite data or not. So what we did is basically we did an experiment with vortex data and with satellite simulation, and another experiment was with vortex data though, but it was without satellite data simulation. So what we found that if you simulate the satellite observation with this vortex initialization in the model, so model is showing a good skill when both the satellite observation and the vortex initialization are present. So this was tested for extremely severe cyclonic storm Chapla, I think, which formed over Arabian Sea during 2015. So this was the third study. So likewise, The DP errors were improved. Means the positional error were reduced in vote read assimilation. So now this was my past study. So I'm very much interested to discuss how of the case study of recent cyclones. This cyclone, the name of the cyclone was Fani, and it formed over Bay of Bengal last year only. So why the cyclone was very peculiar is that it developed very near to the equator. Generally, the cyclones do not form near the equator because the formation of cyclone you need to have Coriolis force, and from 0 to 5 degree north and 0 degree 5 south, we don't have that Coriolis force. So generally, cyclones do not form over near the equator. But this was a very rare case, and we found that this was found very near to the equator. So that's why this thing fascinated me to study this cyclone. So it formed during this 26th April to 4th of May over Bay of Bengal. So this was one of the like climatologically, if you talk about Fani, so it was the most intense cyclonic storm crossing the Odisha coast during the pre-monsoon season. Means if you talk about 1965 onward, it was the most intense cyclone which crossed the Odisha coast 1960 during 1965, and very recently we had Amphan cyclone, which was further more intense than this. It came in last month only. So it had a very long track also. Means generally cyclones do not follow this much of a long track, but it has a 30 kilometer of track. So these are the peculiar things which fascinated me to study the cyclone. So these are the SCATSAT, ISRO's SCATSAT wind observation of the cyclone. So this is for 28th April, the cyclone was here. We were tracking in the real time. And then on the 1st May, this cyclone reached very near the Odisha coast. So this was the observed track of this Fani cyclone, and these are the corresponding satellite images of the cyclone. Means these plot basically shows the convective clouds present during the cyclone. As we know that when cyclone form, we have a lot of convection there. So, and this is the radar imagery of that cyclone. When it was about to hit the coast, we can see the clear image of a cyclone in the radar picture. So first we can see that we gave a real-time prediction of cyclone based on 27th April, 28th April, 29th, 30th, 1st and 2nd May. So this black curve shows the observed track of the cyclone. It might be that you cannot see clearly. So and these all the other tracks, they show our the forecasting skill. They just represent our forecasting skill in the real time. So sometimes people used to ask me, sir, it's quite simple that okay, like you can say like this, but one should try to understand the non-linearity which is involved in the cyclonic process. Because suppose cyclone is there, so we don't know. Sometimes it might go here also or here also, like here also. And one thing that we don't have any excuses later on means like we as a whole, if I talk about the cyclonic community, so we don't have any chances of doing any mistake, because if you suppose you generate some warning to Andhra coast here and cyclone hits the Odisha coast, then like all is gone. So this model which I am talking about is basically NCM global model which has resolution of 12 kilometer. So as we can see that from 27th April itself, we were telling that some cyclone will form and it will go like this. And as the time passed, on 29th April onward, we can see the forecasted track, they are very much in correlation with the observed track of this Fani cyclone. Here we can see this is the observed track, and all the forecasted track were telling from 27th April itself that this cyclone is going to hit near this region. So and later on, after once the cyclone passed, we found we calculated the errors. So we found that up to 3 days or to 4 days, our errors were quite bearable. Here we can see that error of 120 kilometer. If we talk, then error of 100 120 kilometer to 200 kilometer is quite bearable. Reason is that cyclones are generally of the size of 150 kilometer to 800 kilometer. So an error of 100 kilometer is quite bearable in real time. So then we validated our model after the after the cyclone passed. So this shows the observation of the rainfall associated with this cyclone, and this shows the model predicted rainfall. So we can see from this plot that moreover this observation pattern was matching with the predicted cyclone track. So this model under predicted the quantity of rainfall over this Bay of Bengal region, but moreover the track was quite means correct. So this thing helped the disaster management people to evacuate that region. This plot shows the cyclogenesis of the cyclone. Cyclogenesis means where the cyclone was formed. Okay, so from this we can see that from 25th itself, our model tracked that cyclone will move like this. So here you can see that. Okay, so the cyclone hit the coast on 3rd of May, and this plot shows that 25th itself that our model showed indication that this cyclone will go and then it will recurve and it will hit the Odisha coast. So we were successful in capturing this cyclone. So this plot shows our model analyzed winds and observed position of the cyclones. We can see that the model analysis of the winds and this star mark shows moreover the matching pattern of observation. So we can say that our model was quite skillful while capturing the initial signature of winds. So next, we tried to analyze that what was the moisture content associated with this cyclone. So what we did that we divided the whole atmosphere into vertical height level. So 1000 HPA is basically your ground level, and 200 HPA is upper level. So we took all the moisture from 1000 HPA to 200 HPA, and then we mathematically integrated this thing. And then we found that the most of the moisture which was driven by this cyclone, that was coming cross equatorially from southwest, and it was feeding up this cyclone. So this was one of the feature that why this cyclone was quite intense. As you can see that on the 3rd, this cyclone hit the coast, but still you can see the moisture content was quite high. From here you can see very clearly, and this moisture was being transported cross equatorially from the southwestern direction. So normally cyclone moisture have content via this direction, but this type of this was fed like some sort of monsoonal feature also. This was also a reason that why it was very strong. Then we tried to analyze the disastrous nature of cyclone. Actually, when the cyclone hit the coast, it was of nature of very severe cyclonic storm. So this is the orography of Puri coast. We can see then on the 3rd, these vertical winds were quite high, means they were reaching up to 200 HPA. 200 HPA is the height of order of like 8 kilometers from the ocean surface. So you can see the strong vertical winds were present when it was crossing over the Odisha coast. And similarly, this relative vorticity was telling about the rotating behavior of the cyclone. This one was also quite high and reached up to 10 HPA. So all those features shows that the disastrous nature of the cyclone of Fani. Okay. So then we try to capture the rapid intensification of cyclone in the model. So India Meteorological Department defines the rapid intensification of cyclone when the pressure drop over the ocean means that the MSLP drops by 24 HPA in one day. So we can see that based on 27th, like this is the forecast of mean sea level pressure based on 27th April initial condition. This is forecast of mean sea level based on 28th April initial condition. This is based on 29th and 30th. So we can see that 27th and 28th April, the model was telling a gradual decrease in the mean sea level pressure. But as on 29th itself, there was a sharp decrease in the pressure. So this feature, that means the model very nicely captured that there will be rapid intensification of the cyclone. So 29th April itself, we just told that it is going to be it is going to intensify very fast. So similarly, the plot of maximum sustained wind also shows the same feature, that maximum sustained wind for 29th and 30th April, they were like increasing very much. So that means the model was indicating towards a rapid intensification of the cyclone. Then based on this initial signature of the cyclone, we further investigated other physics of the cyclone. So potential vorticity is basically a diagnostic tool which tells the frictional intrusion of the cyclone on the ocean surface. So basically we can see the potential vorticity associated with the cyclone. Means the model was very clearly telling that this potential vorticity is going to hit near this Odisha coast, and this is based on 29th April. So 29th April, it is very clear that on 3rd May the cyclone will hit the Odisha coast. So we just made that we shared this information to IMD, then IMD disseminated this information to media people. So further, this was the real-time operation, real-time thing when the cyclone formed. Further, we tried to know the causes of this sudden rapid intensification based on the sea surface temperature. So as we know that the tropical cyclones are sort of a fuel engine for which the heating is a fuel. So we tried to analyze the sea surface temperature of the associated with the cyclone for the whole month. So this is the sea surface temperature for April 8 to April 14, and then 15 to 21, and then 22 to 28. And this is the difference of these sea surface temperature. So if we see the difference of 22 to 28 April from 15th April to 21 April, so we can see that this difference was like this Bay of Bengal was quite warmer. So this thing facilitated the sudden rapid intensification of the cyclone, because you can see that the cyclone intensified on 29th and 30th April, and 29th itself the cyclone was lying here. And for the rest of the places, you can see that not that much of heating is there. If we see that we get this heating up to here only. So based on this sea surface temperature data, this is the observed sea surface temperature data. We concluded that one of the main feature of this rapid intensification was the anomalous heating of the Bay of Bengal region just before the cyclone formation. And similarly, okay. Then we tried to find this thing in our model also. So model depicted same nature of cyclone. So this cross mark shows the actual position of the cyclone at that particular day. Like this shows for 28th April, then 29th April. So as we can see, that model was also picking a very warm water of ocean reaching up to 30.8 degrees centigrade. And normally for the formation of cyclone, you need to have approximately 26.5 degree centigrade of warm water. So here it was reaching up to 30.8 degrees centigrade. So these are the features why this cyclone was means very much intensified. Then we further analyzed the other physics of the cyclone. Then another means main cause of a rapid intensification is the average latent heat flux. As we know that when the cyclones are formed, there is a release of latent heat flux in the ocean. So from this plot, we can see that there was a strong latent heat release during the formation of cyclone. So it was reaching up to 350 watt per meter square. So based on this analysis, so this SST was quite high, and then latent heat was quite high. Then we integrated that what energy is below the ocean. Means what we did basically, we took the ocean surface and integrated the whole ocean energy up to 400 to 500 meter. So this process is known as tropical cyclone heat potential. Tropical cyclone heat potential. It is one of the most main cause of intensification of the cyclone. So we can see that again this tropical cyclone heat potential was reaching up to 120 kilojoule per meter square over this region. So this also fueled up the rapid intensification of the cyclone. So from these words, I would like to conclude my presentation. So basically, what we found that as you increase the resolution of the global model, the prediction of the cyclone was improved in the real time. And another aspect of improving the track was if we implemented the voltage initialization. So it has also some good impact on the prediction of tropical cyclone. Then another main finding of our study was that the rapid intensification of tropical cyclone Fani was mainly driven by sea surface temperature and ocean heat fluxes, which were associated. So these were three main things. And then very recently, my plan is to study this super cyclone Amphan, which came to during 16 to 20 May. So it was also like one of this horrible cyclone, I'll say, because it was of the category of super cyclonic storm. We have only like two main super cyclonic storm in the last 20 years. That also in pre-monsoon season, this is the only cyclone which is of the category of super cyclone. So my future study is like to analyze that why this type of natural disasters happen. So future direction will be based on this study. So thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
For
Okay.
sharing your valuable time. And may I take a question? I think we have a couple of questions.
Yeah, please, please. And sorry,
Okay.
really, for inconvenience caused. Sometimes I feel. Yep.
That we can understand. Yeah.
Ah.
There is one question from Professor Jharia that he's asking, what are the different factors which control cyclone movement, and moreover, how assess and optimize those factors accurately for forecasting, as it's a regional phenomenon. Is forecasting technique adopt global to local phenomena, or localized study enough for forecasting?
Okay, that's a really very nice question. Thank you, sir. Actually, basically, if you talk about the track of the cyclone, so basically the movement and track of the cyclone is governed by the steering flow of the winds. Means the track is mainly governed by the steering flow of the winds. And if you talk about the intensity of the cyclone, so the intensity of the cyclone is mainly governed by the sea surface temperature and tropical cyclone heat potential and all those features which I discussed. So suppose some steering winds are present over the ocean, and if you talk about this Nisarga case, as you might have seen in the newspaper also, that this was the first cyclone which hit the Mumbai coast during the pre-monsoon season. Reason is that this cyclone was steered towards the Mumbai because there was onset of southwesterly winds, and the general tendency of cyclone is moving towards the Arabian Sea cyclone generally moves towards the Yemen coast. So this cyclone was basically the resultant of this movement towards the Yemen coast and the southwesterly. This was the resultant. It moved towards the Mumbai coast. And another thing I think sir has asked about.
Yes, it's a regional phenomena. So is forecasting technique adopt global to local, or from locally?
Actually, cyclones are basically of the mesoscale nature. So exactly we cannot tell that they are the regional thing, because there, if you talk about the size of cyclone, so eye of cyclone itself is of size of 20 kilometers, and then if you try to forecast this thing with some regional model, so very recently we have some experiment with regional model also. Like what we are doing, that we are running a 4-kilometer regional model. So what we found that the track of the cyclone is not that much of well captured in the regional model, but regional models are good in capturing the intensity of the cyclone in real time. So what we have done is basically the track forecast we are seeing based on this global model of resolution of 12 kilometer, and the intensity predictions they are shared with IMD based on this regional model. Okay.
Okay. Sir further adds one more question in his question, that is there any natural indicator like bird migration, etc., in case of cyclones, which can help us in early warning?
Sorry, sir. Actually, I don't know, because there might be. I am sure that there might be, but truly speaking, I don't have any idea of this type of thing. But I am sure that there should be some natural indicator.
And there, further, one more question that is that why maximum cyclones are confined towards east of India? That is, he's meaning like in Bay of Bengal. Why only?
Okay. That's a very nice question. Actually, most of the cyclone, if you talk about, so they are formed like 70% over the Bay of Bengal region. The reason is that if you talk about the waters of Bay of Bengal, they are well stratified. Stratification means like they are having some layered structure. Very clean water is there in comparison to Arabian Sea. So once you have very clean water and well stratified water, so the direct heating of the sun like fuels of quick formation of the cyclone. This is one of the main reason that why the cyclones are formed over Bay of Bengal. Another reason which is also there, like there are certain if I sorry, just wait. Okay. If you talk about Bay of Bengal, then there are some remnant of other cyclones which used to come from South China Sea. So they also fuels up the cyclone. But if you talk about Arabian Sea, so Arabian Sea is totally barren, means no cyclone is formed, because here downward it is Indian Ocean. Then again a very big sort of, I'll say that desert is there, water desert is there. So these two features, like well stratified water of Bay of Bengal and this remnant which used to come from South China Sea, they fuels up the formation of cyclone more over the Bay of Bengal region in comparison to Arabian Sea. These are the two main features till now which I know.
Okay.
Is there any role?
Yeah.
Is there any role of Indian remote sensing satellites, especially Terra Modis and IRS-P4 OceanSat in the prediction of cyclone?
Sir, actually, we used to take the current situation of atmosphere using the satellite. So, as I told that earlier, very long back, we used to take that Kalpana satellite data, and then we have lot of we used to take the satellite data in real time as the initial condition. So yeah, obviously we used to take and based on that initial condition, then based on those mathematical equations, we used to give prediction of the cyclone. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And since the session was very important, I think because we are and it's pouring the question. There is one more question which is very interesting, that how we can get meteorological data for research purpose from your organization.
Hello. Pardon me, your
hello.
voice was your voice was not clear, sir.
Okay, I repeat the question. The question is how we can get meteorological data for research purpose from your organization.
Yeah, actually, it's a very simple. Means like you just write a mail to our director, and if it comes through proper channel, then we don't have any issue. Means it's totally free. But only thing is that it should come through a proper channel. Means like the communication should be between head of our organization and head of your organization. It's very simple. Yeah, please.
Okay. I hope that has answered. There is one more question from Dr. Radhakrishnan. He's asking that you mentioned the anomalous sea surface temperature is the cause for one of the cyclone mentioned by you. What was the cause of, I think he was asking, of the sudden rise in temperature? What can be the rise? What is the reason why the surface temperature is increasing?
Okay. That's okay. So that question can be answered. You see this tropical cyclone heat potential. Okay. So the tropical cyclone heat potential is the content of ocean energy which is lying below the ocean surface. So since we can see that tropical cyclone heat potential was quite high. So this energy which was lying under the warm waters, that fueled up the sudden intensification of the cyclone, and also in temperature. I think I answered.
Yeah. Of course. I think questions are over, I guess, by now. Yeah, probably most of the questions which are otherwise there is a repetition, so I can skip if permitted. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, sir. Indeed, it was very.
Thank you.
For the first time, because
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We understand.
Sometimes I feel guilty because I should be on time. Yeah.
Fine, but with the onset of monsoon, we are facing problem. Even some of the participants have started facing problem because of technical connectivity. So it's but obvious that there is no issue regarding that. In fact, I just want to share this information why we have requested Vivek Singh sir to kindly have this session, because that's why the title is Geoscience. Usually, when we call Geoscience, we constrain ourselves to geology. Max to max we go for geophysics, but actually geoscience comprises
meteorology.
At least 5 subjects. Yeah, at least 5 subjects: geology, geophysics, climatology, meteorology, and also the marine part, marine geology in detail. So all these 5 subjects needs to be addressed, and henceforth we requested Vivek Singh sir to kindly share his valuable time. He is the man who works on supercomputer, so we know he will be very busy. But he was so kind and so generous that he shared his valuable time. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so now we will be joining for the last session of the last day at 4 o'clock, which will be by Dr. K.R. Randive, and we will be listening to him at 4 o'clock. We will join at 4 o'clock, and afterwards, after the session, there will be immediately the validity function as well. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.